Dude, it's like, that's intense. Hey friends, Nathan Arthur here. The other day I made a video covering the physical patching on my pedal board because I was getting a lot of questions about it, and I wanted to make a second video just describing my MIDI setup and how I'm using specifically the Zoia from Empress Effects. I don't use it quite the same as other people might, which I think is kind of unique and inspiring to me at least. So I hope that this video is helpful for you if you own a Zoia, or maybe it will finally push you off the edge to purchasing one, because I really think that it is one of the best pedals that exists on the market right now. I think there's so many creative options with it, so many creative possibilities. So here you go. I hope that this is super helpful. Let's get into it.
The signal chain is going to be really simple today. I'm just going to go from the quad cortex through this cable into my Mood Mark II, then from the Mood Mark II through this cable back into the reverb, the microcosm, and back in. I don't have any reverb happening or any effects happening on these. These are just bypassed. So really you're just going to get the dry signal from the Arturia Microfreak here, which is doing a really simple little arpeggio. If I turn this up, just really simple. So what I'm also going to do right now is I'm going to capture a loop with this. Let's make it, give it clock about the middle. Yeah, that's cool. All right, Arturia is going down. So now this is just the Mood Mark II. So we have this nice loop going, just in the mood, nothing anymore with the Arturia, just the mood, okay? Now usually what I would do to edit any of these sounds within the mood is I can take my modify knob, I can go backwards here, right? I can take the length knob, make the mix more, which in this case I'll just keep it at maximum because I don't want anything else coming through the mood. I can change my clock. So that's nice. And then these two knobs, I can add a reverb or delay. In this case I'll do a delay. And you'll notice that that's also in stereo. Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's get into the Zoia and why it's so crucial to this setup and why it's so powerful. You'll notice on the top row here, there are 3 buttons. There are 3 buttons on the bottom. They're all colored red. Those 6 buttons correlate to the 6 knobs up on the mood. And so what I've done here is if I click on this, you'll notice that this is labeled time, just as this knob is labeled time up here. So let's go to, I don't know, let's go to length. And then if I adjust the length using this rotary knob here, you'll notice that it's changing the physical length knob on the Mood Mark II. Okay, which by itself is really cool. It means that I get to control all of the parameters on the top layer of the mood using this. Right, so this would be for the mod. Anything above 62 would be going forward. Anything lower than 62 is counterclockwise, which is going backward. Okay, but what makes this really special? So what? Well, I also have these 6, which are all of the hidden controls. So, for instance, if I want less stereo on my delay, I can turn the stereo down or back up, right? down. So it's pretty much completely mono now. And back up. Right. I have all of the dip switches, so I don't have to look in the back anymore because these Chase Bliss pedals are awesome and come with extra controls, but they're really annoying because you have to look on the back and flip the dip switches that you want. Say I want to bounce the, I don't know, the clock knob. I would select bounce, and then I would select clock. Right, and so that would be the same as physically changing the dip switch on the back to select bounce and clock. I can do it with the very easily from just hitting these buttons here. These two buttons are already lit up. This is my spread dip switch and my miso dip switch. So that just makes the pedal stereo from a mono input. Okay, so this is cool, right? We're getting into some kind of fun territory. I can change even more things. Let's go with less direct, a bit more balance. Keep that at max. Ramp wave. Let's make this a random ramp. Ramp speed. Let's change the ramp speed. The lower the number, the faster the ramp speed. So you can hear that random ramp with a really fast ramp speed, or I can change it to a really low ramp speed. Okay, let's go a step further. I have LFOs here, right? Because this is a Zoia, so this is a little modular synth in a box. And so what you can do here, if you are uninterested in using the dip switches, because those dip switches can be sort of limiting sometimes, if you want finite control, I can take an LFO. You can see it going down from a value of 0 all the way up to a value of 1. I'm going to assign that now to my clock by holding the LFO output and the clock at the same time. So now you can see there's a little bar that's moving across this screen. If you don't know a lot about the Zoia, you should check it out. It's very cool. This is kind of annoying, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold both of these again, and I'm going to attenuate the signal. And I'm going to make this happen really quickly. So now you can see I have very, very fine control over what's happening. If I want to make this a bit slower but more random, I'll just go into my settings. Instead of sine, I'm going to go to random, hit done. And I'm also going to bring the modified down here. And I'm also going to add a touch of reverb here, because why not? So now we're starting to see it's getting kind of a little bit more generative. It's becoming more random. At this point, this will just switch randomly. I'm actually going to assign a little bit more, attenuate it up this time. And I'm also going to move the length knob here. So now you'll hear at a rate of 0.107 hertz. It's going to switch to a random value here on the Zoia. That then is going to change the clock or not change the clock depending on how far away the value was. wait for it one more time. There it is. Okay, let's take this one step further. I have a second LFO here that's doing a really fast sine. I'm going to assign this to my time button and bring the time all the way down, and I'm going to make this a little bit slower. So now you'll hear that the space between the echoes on the sides is going to increase and decrease. On top of that, I can also use the dip switches. So I'm going to hit bounce here, and then I'm going to hit the modify button, which is one that isn't being used by one of these two LFOs. Let me just find that. Okay, B mod. So old blood noise mod. And so now these are all of the repeats are going to fade at different times depending on the random LFO assigned internally by the dip switches that I'm controlling with the Zoia here. I'll move my base point for the clock a little bit to the left, so we'll actually start going into the reverse category sometime. I'll increase the speed of this a little bit, so it's happening about 4 times this, once every 4 seconds. Let's add our microcosm now, this guy right here. I'm also going to do a tap tempo. I have this foot switch assigned to a tap tempo. Okay, so I want it to be about that fast. I'm going to activate this, turn my mix up. There it is. Right now it's set into reverse mode. So I'm going to page over here. So you can see I've got the original mood control, the habit control, the blooper control, gem loss, which is the generation loss, the lossy control. I'm going to scroll over, so now I'm on microcosm control. Again, I have it laid out so that all the knobs correlate to the buttons. So I've got activity here on this knob. Activity is my first button. Shape, shape. Filter, filter. So that just helps me access this really quickly and easily. I know exactly where things are, and you'll notice that I also have a lot more LFOs. In this case, on this page, all of my LFOs are in blue. So I've got this one square LFO. And I think that this is a random LFO, so let me just assign the random LFO to the shape. Then I'm going to bring my baseline all the way down. So the shape can be any of the options around this wheel. I'm going to take this one, make it a random is good. I'm going to assign this one to the activity, and I'm going to assign this one to repeats. So you'll notice that activity is all the way up now. It's all the way to the right. And so now I have a really dynamic, completely generative thing happening inside of the microcosm, and that's interfacing with everything that's happening in the mood. So what I'm doing here is I'm really using the Zoia as the central digital brain of the entire board, where I only have a few pedals here that are not MIDI capable. The Infinite Juts being one, Tomcat Cloudy, Fairfield Shallow Water, Fairfield Unpleasant Surprise. Everything else on the board is MIDI capable, including everything on the second board that's hidden over there. Also the Microfreak and the Polyon Tracker. Utility page where I didn't mention this second foot pedal that's kind of covered in black, but you'll notice that as I swing it upward, these lights turn on. And so what I could actually do is I have macros that I can assign to this. So for instance, if I want the simple movement of this foot switch to let's say I want it to increase the whatever this is, the filter resonance, okay? So now, this foot switch increases the filter resonance of the microcosm. I'll turn the filter down a little bit so you can hear it. You can kind of hear how that filter is coming in and out. I'll even increase the mix here. Filter resonance out, all the way in. Okay, I can use it to simultaneously increase the space, or if I wanted to, I also have you'll notice that when it's all the way down this reverse, the CV invert is happening. So what I'm gonna do is I'll go back to my microcosm page, and I'm actually going to have it decrease the space. So the space is the third knob here, so I'm gonna set that. And so now, I'm gonna set my bass line all the way to the top. And so, with this macro, I can now, at the bottom, have the maximum amount of space with 0 filter resonance. So you hear 0 filter resonance, but maximum space. And then no space, or no reverb, with maximum filter resonance. Or somewhere in the middle. So this would be pedal about 50%. So that's my, that's the explanation behind how I'm using the Zoia. Obviously, there's so much more that can be done with this. And it's really kind of up to you to figure out new and creative and exciting ways to do this, to use this. Yeah. I think that that's about it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down there, and we'll see you in the next video.